Most construction leaders don't struggle because they lack opportunity. They struggle because they grow faster than their leadership skills can keep up. Today's episode is about how strong construction leaders are actually developed. My guest is Katharine Hamer, a project manager with DPR Construction in San Diego. Katharine grew up in the Florida Keys, played D1 lacrosse at the University of Florida, and has worked across higher education, hospitals, data centers, parking structures, and life science projects. In this conversation, we talk about what high performance really looks like in the field, why discipline and accountability matter more than titles, how DPR builds leaders from the ground up, and what young professionals need to focus on if they want to grow without skipping critical steps. If you're early in your career or responsible for developing the next generation of construction leaders, this episode's going to give you a clear picture of what actually works. Let's get right into it. This is Eric Anderton, and you're listening to Construction Genius, a leadership masterclass. Thomas Edison said that genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. If you're a construction leader, you know all about the perspiration, and this show is all about the 1% inspiration that you can add to your hard work to help you to improve your leadership. Katharine, welcome to Construction Genius.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. What originally drew you into the construction industry?
I kind of stumbled into it, actually. I wanted to do engineering when I was growing up and originally got into college. I didn't really know that there was such a business side to construction, and I kind of thought all you could do was engineering or an architect or something like that. So once I found out there was the whole GC side, I really committed and dove right in.
That's cool. How did you find that out? What opened your eyes to that?
I actually randomly got an internship through, it was a sustainability and the built environment major in college, and ended up going to some class that had us do go to a presentation. And I ended up talking with the right guy in the back of the room and got a internship. And then I was like, wait, I don't even know what I was getting myself into. And it was general contracting, and did a summer of that. And I was like, okay, I think I really like this. So
Cool. How did you find DPR?
So I grew up in Florida. I was in Orlando at the time working for another general contractor. And then we had some people that actually left that general contractor and went to DPR, and they kind of brought me with them.
Ah, interesting. Yeah. So they must have seen something in you that wanted them to bring you on to DPR then, huh?
Yeah. They said DPR really walks the walk, and if you want to go anywhere, you should come here.
That's interesting because a lot of companies talk about culture. I know DPR is famous in the industry for making that emphasis. What did you notice when you first joined about that walking the walk as far as that was concerned?
Yeah, I think they do a really good job on really hiring the right people that are going to able to push that culture and commit to it and buy in, because, you can have this big picture, and at the end of the day, you're doing construction is the same work, but the culture, and if you have people that buy in for it and really push it, is what makes the company really great.
That's interesting. In college, you played D1 sports. Was it lacrosse?
Yes, lacrosse.
Yeah, awesome. That's great. How did that background shape the way you approach performance, accountability, and teamwork in your career?
Yeah, I think being a college athlete really makes you really disciplined and really, really good at time management, because you have very little time to do your tasks. And then, the team aspect is you're all working together on the same goal. You all have roles that are different on the team. You have to embrace that role and do it the best of your ability to get to that end goal.
That's neat. What are some techniques that you learned then that you've taken with you in terms of time management?
Yeah. So I think really just knowing that you only have 2 hours to do this task, and you really got to get it done. So just being able to sit down and just do your task, and then also being able to prioritize and know hey, this task is going to take me this many minutes or an hour and stuff, and being able to prioritize this I need to get done first to be able to give myself enough time for whatever XYZ after. So really just being able to organize myself in a way that makes me productive.
Yeah, it's interesting. Do you find that you work well with those types of constraints? Is it easier for you when you know you have a short amount of time as opposed to a big window?
Yeah, I definitely work better under pressure.
Yeah. That's interesting. Now, in terms of accountability, I know sometimes on sports teams, I've coached sports teams and been in sports teams, and sometimes the accountability is quite aggressive. Like if someone's not stepping up, if they're not doing their job, the captain of the team or the coach will get in someone's face. How does accountability work in the construction world? And is it as aggressive as that, or is it more sort of straightforward? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I feel like I kind of take that approach a little bit, not as just like being aggressive or whatever, but definitely being able to hold myself accountable.
Yeah.
And understanding, hey, like, whenever I make a mistake, it's, acknowledge the mistake. And then whatever you do next needs to be to correct it or to work as a team to find a best solution. So I think being able to hold yourself accountable and then also kind of being able to pull somebody aside and more, maybe not necessarily calling somebody out in the middle of a game in front of everybody, but pulling somebody aside and saying, hey, we need to do this better, or, hey, I understand that this happened. What do we do now to fix it?
I'm interested. One of my sons has just started playing soccer in high school, and the level that he's stepping up to is a higher one than he's ever played before. And he's kind of been a little bit overwhelmed by the speed of it and the physicality of it. As you have gotten into construction and you see new people coming into the business, do you ever notice that as they get in, they're sort of deer in the headlights to begin with, and they need a little bit of help and time to get up to speed?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's also something that comes from athletics is being able to coach the younger kids or adults at this point, but being able to coach people and bring them up with you and understanding that if you are helping them, then we're going to be better as a team. So not letting them flounder.
Give us some insights into how you do that coaching. What are your favorite methods for helping someone when they are struggling a little bit and you want to bring them up to speed?
Yeah, I think again, just like, having one-on-ones with them, or even, hey, if there's something that maybe it was an email or a conversation or something, and hey, like maybe not calling them out in front of everybody, but after, and being like, hey, maybe would have said this a little bit different, or hey, this is actually what that means. So I think you weren't grasping what the big picture was here or what the topic was. So just understanding too, and really being very self-aware and aware of how other people are reacting and be able to read how they are physically or characteristics to kind of judge like, wait, I don't know if they really got that.
So that's interesting, right? Because young people come into the industry and they're in a room and there's a bunch of vocabulary going around the room, and, they're nodding their heads and putting their best foot forward, but you're noticing that they're not understanding that. As you got into the business, were you someone who would raise your hand and say, I don't get that? Or would you sort of make a mental note and then go figure it out later? How did you handle that?
I think a little bit of both. And I think I still, meetings, if we're doing something, and trying not to act like you're the smartest person in the room, and being very humble with that. And I think people also respect that, not necessarily like, wait, this is like something way out of my realm, but being like, hey, wait, can you repeat yourself? And can you go into that a little bit more? Because odds are you're not the only one in the room that doesn't know what they're talking about. So just a little clarity there. Or after being like, hey, can you run me down why this decision was made? So I think it's a little bit of both, and knowing when's the appropriate time to ask for help.
That's interesting. You've worked on tech centers and life science builds. What does a high performance project culture look like from your perspective, particularly when you get into more technical types of projects?
Yeah. And I think kind of going into that is really just having like a team that has like no ego, right? So we always say like no ego, amigo, or leave your ego at the door. So kind of like that exactly. You're not going to be the smartest person in the room. You know when to ask for help. You know when to come together, who to bring into a room when we need to get the solution done. And just really the communication on a team and the bond needs to be set from the beginning. And that can be set from anybody, but usually it comes top down. So
with this no ego, how do you know someone has an ego that's not working for them or for the team? When do you notice that?
Yeah, you can kind of start to notice it when people do take on a little bit more than they can actually handle, and things start to slip through the cracks, and which is okay to an extent, but then they have to start, hey, raise your hand. But you need to acknowledge and also be aware of like, daily check-ins and stuff like, hey, are you actually good here? Like, it's not a bad thing to ask for help or get support here and there, or take one thing off your plate. It's going to be okay.
Yeah, it's interesting. Why do you believe that athletes make strong recruits for construction, and what traits from sports best translate to the job site?
Yeah, I think just being really disciplined and being able to work on your own and doing the correct thing when no one's watching, and not a really detail oriented like mindset, like on whether it's in sports, working on your form or whatever it is, like knowing how to get the little things right to get to the big picture. And then, yeah, just like the fact of knowing how to be on a team and how to lose too, and how to fail and come back. I think that's really big that a lot of people don't know that failing is okay, obviously to an extent, but you need to be able to be okay with failure sometimes.
All right, quick break to talk about my book, Construction Genius. This is what I want you to do. Go to Amazon, search for the book, read all of the 5-star reviews, because there's a ton of them. Over 50 to be precise. And the reason I want you to read them is because real people wrote those reviews who've actually read the book. And it'll give you an idea of why you should go and buy a copy right now on Amazon. And here's the deal. If you purchase 10 or more copies for your company, and then send me an email, eric@constructiongenius.com, I'll come in via Zoom and do a 1-hour Q&A and a bonus training session with your team at no charge. I normally charge $4,500 for an hour of my time. And again, for you, I'll do it at no charge if you buy 10 or more copies of my book. And the reason you should buy it is all in the title. It's effective, hands-on, practical, simple, no BS, leadership, strategy, sales, and marketing advice for construction companies. So if you're in the construction industry, this book is for you. So you can get it on Amazon. You can also get it on Audible in the audio version as well, narrated by yours truly. And I know you'll really enjoy it. So go out and get the book. And now back to the interview.
How does the DPR culture work when the team isn't executing as it should? You know, let's say you have a bad week or a bad month. And because you guys have such a collegial kind of approach to work, there are times when you're losing, though, and stuff has to be addressed. So how does DPR handle that?
Yeah, I mean, it could just be like it's been a crazy week and nothing's going our way. And I like it too, because usually we all acknowledge that and say like, hey, we need to all go to lunch or something and get away from the project and kind of get a reset or go to a happy hour or whatever it is that your project team does. Is just like a little bit of take a step away, get this, maybe we talk about it there or vent or whatever it is. And then we come back and take a moment and be like, okay, this is what we need to do. Or whether that's like a meeting or something and go over your lessons learned or whatever. But it's kind of, you just need to take a time out.
Yeah, interesting. As you think to the early stages of your career, you've been in the business, for about 7 years, 8 years now?
Yes. Yeah.
How many people could you identify who've been real mentors to you?
Yeah. I think for me, this project that I've been on, this project team, I've been on this team for 3 years now. A little plus, actually, it'll be about 3.5 years. But yeah, I had some great PXs, great superintendents, and just people who are really in tune with the team and in tune with who needs what and what attention. And also just like, hey, like I noticed that you've had a bad day. Like, let's step outside. Let's talk about this. Just really being in tune with everybody.
And have you been working on different projects in that project team?
Yeah. So I have done 3 different projects within the campus project that we are out here. So, and then the campus also has multiple different projects, but we kind of work as one big group. Maybe you don't work directly with the person every single day, but you kind of feed off of each other.
What advice would you give to a young project engineer or young project manager who comes out of college with a nice shiny degree, but doesn't have much experience working on the job site? What advice would you give them for interacting with superintendents and foremen to raise their credibility and make sure they're building strong relationships?
It's really just get out in the field and be a face that everybody knows. Be there, whether it's a daily walk in the morning or afternoon after lunch or whatever, or even whenever you have a 15-minute break, just get out in the field and just be present and ask questions and just really interact with everybody from the ground up.
How did you handle interacting with sort of some of the crustier folks in construction who were maybe skeptical as you walked onto the job site in the first few years of your career?
Yeah, I think athletics really helped me with that, because whether it's going on into a new team or whatever, different levels, you just got to be yourself and show up and kind of just acknowledge that they might not be, as trustworthy with you at first. But if you just continue into stride and just keep moving forward, usually you gain their respect really quickly. And then they treat you like as like a little sister or something, and they take you under their wing.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? As you're progressing in your career, one of the complaints that you often hear from older people is that younger people, they want to make 150,000 right out of college or 200,000, and they have all these expectations. How do you balance your ambitions with the patience that's needed to build real expertise?
Yeah. So you can't really get very far if you don't have a good construction background and constructability. And that takes years of experience. So just acknowledging that from the beginning, like, hey, like, I just can't, there's no way I would actually make the building fall over if I didn't get that construction background, or I'd lead us into failure. So just acknowledging that right out of the gate, like, hey, like, I need to actually learn how to build because that's what we do here. So it takes time.
When it comes to that, let's just think back the last year. What's the most important lesson you've learned in the last year from a technical perspective that's really new to you or is helping you as you're growing in your career?
Yeah, we're doing a lot of design build work out here, which is new to me, and just really learning how to work early with the design team and kind of keep them on a schedule is something that we never had to really do, because by the time we got the drawings, we were, moving forward. But really, because we're in that design and our hands are in it a little bit, being able to pull everybody and ask the correct questions to get us across the finish line.
When you're in that realm, how are you using technology, things like AI and stuff like that, to help you know what kinds of questions to ask? Or are you not using that? Or are you just tapping into your human resources? What do you do there?
I am not the biggest AI. We have a big group of people out here who are really good at it.
Yeah.
I just am the best myself. For me, it's been just more experience on, what past projects I know that I need, or even lessons learned from this project, these past 2 projects that I've done. Now I know what next time I'm definitely going to ask questions and what we should be doing.
And as you think back to your career, what skills and responsibilities have turned out to be more critical to project management than you first expected?
Yeah, I think just the human aspect. I just really didn't know how much people oriented and how much communication and teamwork and all of that really tied in to it. Cause you can have the skills on paper and do great, but if you can't work with someone from a foreman all the way up to the owner and be able to kind of be a chameleon and shape who your audience is when you're talking to them, you're going to have a hard time out here.
Okay, tell us more about that chameleon aspect. How do you work through that and understand how to adjust your approach?
Yeah. So just knowing who your audience is.
Yeah.
Like, your guy out in the field isn't going to want all of the details. He's just going to want to know what he's doing right now. Maybe your architect is going to want all of that big picture, and just how you're talking to someone in a suit, you talk to them like they're wearing a suit out in the field. Don't be so stiff.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Think about the last time you promoted someone into a leadership role and it failed. Why did it fail? I can tell you one reason. People know how to build projects, but they don't know how to build and lead teams of people. Construction comes with its challenges that only insiders truly understand. Generic leadership training doesn't cut it. You need a program to train your leaders built specifically for construction professionals, led by an industry expert. And my online course, The Shift, is exactly that course. It has 5 modules. It'll teach your people how to control their calendars and reduce stress and embrace chaos and accomplish their critical tasks. It will teach them the 3 essential messages they have to communicate every day in order to motivate and lead their team effectively. It'll show them how to build and lead a high-performing team, give them a framework for running effective meetings so they'll be able to solve problems in less than an hour, and also give them a higher perspective on their leadership that will enable them to work on the business and on their teams and not get stuck in the weeds micromanaging. So go out to my website, theshift.constructiongenius.com, read all about the course, and then enroll yourself and your leaders in the course, and I guarantee that it will transform your leadership. If it does not, you take the whole course and you didn't get benefit from it, you just send me an email, eric@constructiongenius.com, and I will cheerfully refund you 100% of your money. I'm really confident this course will transform your leadership. So again, go out to the website, theshift.constructiongenius.com, learn more about the course, and start taking it today. When you think about your career developing and earning opportunities, so on the one hand, you've got to build your expertise, which is absolutely essential. But on the other hand, you don't want to be stagnant and you want to raise your hand and be able to step into those roles that are offered. How do you balance that?
Yeah. So I think really being in the field and really getting that construction background and making sure that you're well-rounded, whether you're doing interiors, your first project, maybe next time you ask to do the steel or the skin or something, and then next time you ask to do the MEP and whatever it is, making sure that you touch everything. A lot of times people come in and they only work on one or two scopes and then they like those scopes and then continue. But really just thinking about like your resume building in expertise. You need to be able to build the project from start to finish if you're going to go higher up. And the higher up you go, you actually get farther away from the construction. So this time right now, when you come in is really when you need to build that expertise.
Now, you started as a project engineer, right?
Yes.
And how long ago did you get promoted to project management?
In January, so only a couple months.
Okay. So we're recording this in February. What's been the biggest surprise to you so far after having been promoted?
It definitely is a lot more FaceTime with the higher ups and, the owners and everything. And you are truly the face, and it definitely trickles down. So you're responsible for everybody, which is a good thing. So you're responsible for everything without always the control. So to place your people in the correct ways and being able to pull good things out of them is pretty hard.
So what do you mean by that, by being responsible, but not always with the control? What does that mean?
Yeah. So you're going to have people under you who's actually doing most of the work and being able to, do the tasks that you used to do. And maybe something wasn't exactly how I used to do it or whatever. But as long as they get to the end goal and that's what we're going for, that's okay. But sometimes you really kind of are like, ooh, I want a little help more with that, but you can't. So you got to let them do their job.
Interesting. So that's interesting for you. So do you have project engineers reporting to you now?
Not quite yet. Still working on a project right now, wrapping it up, and then we'll keep going.
What thoughts do you have on avoiding micromanagement as you get further up into leadership and have people reporting to you? What are you going to do to avoid that?
Yeah, I think it's similar to with everything else, is just gaining trust with your team and making sure you're asking the correct questions. We have a superintendent out here that always says leading with questions. You're not necessarily telling them, what they need to do, but you're asking questions to get them to that point and letting them come up with their own, way to do it.
Okay, so let's talk about that. What have you learned either by people working with you or you working with others about leading with questions? Give us a little more detail on that.
Yeah. So say you have the answer in your head and someone's not quite there. Instead of just telling them, which sometimes isn't correctly taken, or maybe they get a little pushback on that. That's not really what I want to do, is, asking questions like, hey, are you, probably can't come up with a great example right now, but just basically asking questions to slowly get them to that solution.
It's interesting. I think questions are a good way of testing our own assumptions. And in doing that, we can avoid making assumptions and jumping to conclusions that are incorrect.
Yeah, definitely.
So construction is really demanding, and it's definitely not for everyone. But what makes the work energizing and enjoyable for you, even on tough days?
Yeah, I think the team aspect, that is the point of having a team. When you're in the trenches, usually everybody around you is also in the trenches with you, and it's busy. Usually everybody else is busy. So that camaraderie, dang, that week was tough. And everybody's in there, whether you're joking around and trying to raise the spirits and stuff, that is usually what I really lean to on rough days, is my teammates.
How do you handle that joking around aspect? Because you're on a job site. Typically on a job site, there's more men than women. And I know it's funny, I was at this networking event yesterday and there was this crusty old superintendent that I know, and he was standing there with a beer in one hand and a pitcher in the other. And there's this young woman who works with him, right? And so he starts cussing and he immediately starts correcting himself saying, oh, I'm sorry. And she's like, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal, right? How do you handle that kind of dynamic where, guys they're not trying to be mean or offensive, but they're just being guys? How do you handle that as you're building your career?
Usually just kind of being myself, being assertive, sticking up for yourself, giving it right back.
Yep.
And usually they respect that and is taken the correct way. So
yeah, that's what I found too, is like in construction, I think about this term, baller's ball, right? And if you're a baller, you're going to be fine. It doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, your background, your race, or anything like that. If you show up and you work hard, you'll get accepted pretty quick.
Yeah, I definitely think I got that from my sports world.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So looking ahead, what's the future in construction that excites you the most?
We're doing a lot of healthcare work coming up here. So I am really excited. I did a little bit of that with my previous company and just getting back into that because I feel like that's really fulfilling for me. Just like, seeing something that's really going to help people. And we have like these great stories of people where they built these hospitals and then, they've taken loved ones to them after and you're talking with nurses and stuff. And you're like, yeah, I actually helped put this thing together. So I think that's just super fulfilling to me. And I'm looking forward to that.
That's awesome. Now, is that the healthcare work that you're getting into? Do you guys usually do ground up? Or are you doing TIs or how are you guys doing that?
So we usually, to get in with a client, we start with the TIs and then we get a little bit more. But right now, these big ones that were coming are going to be ground up hospitals.
Yeah. So those TIs, those can be quite complex in terms of getting everything, all the ducks in a row and still having the hospital open and all that kind of stuff. Is that right?
Yeah, really complicated, especially with all the code requirements and everything that you have to make sure you're doing.
How do you handle that in terms of making sure that the details are being covered? Do you have a particular flow that you like to use to make sure you're not missing out those details?
Yeah, we have like a big checklist, making sure we have these like lessons learned from past projects and getting into that checklist and going over your checklist before you move on and before you make a mistake.
That's interesting. So as you think about where your career is going in the next, let's say 20 years, right? So you've got quite a bit of a run in you. What are the 2 or 3 things that you really want to learn and develop and really lay hold of just based on what you know about what others who've been successful in the business have done?
Yeah, I really look up to my project executive, my project manager, my superintendent on this project. I think really what they do a really good job of is creating that team culture and getting the best out of people. So I think that is something that I really want to focus and learn how to do and being able to create something that is such a positive work environment that it's hard not to do your best work.
That's interesting. What do you think is 1 or 2 things that you would definitely focus on with regards to creating that team culture? What's the most important thing? A couple of things there.
Yeah, and I think it's similar to how you kind of are a chameleon with people you talk to is understanding like that not everybody needs the same thing on a team. And then also just really protecting, the safety, the emotional safety and being vulnerable with your team, allowing them to also be vulnerable and just really, making sure that it's psychologically safe.
Yeah. What do you mean by psychological safety?
Yeah, that you're never going to really put down or anything like that for expressing your feelings and just making sure that everybody it is a safe space to be able to bring up stuff that some days personal stuff is going to get in the way or you just had a bad day and that's going to affect how you work. So being able to really talk through those things or allow somebody to feel that and not have to hide it really helps because then at the end of the day, you'll be able to move on much quicker.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Awesome. So you're down in San Diego, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. One of my favorite parts of the world. So people visit San Diego all the time. We need one restaurant recommendation from you, Katharine.
I love chicken wings. So if you're a chicken wing fanatic like me, you got to go to Dirty Birds. They have all the sauces in the world. Great atmosphere. You can get a beer. You can watch football or whatever it is that you want to do. But yeah, that's where I usually go every week.
Awesome.
I have like a little membership.
Membership. Nice. That's beautiful. Okay. So we'll have a link in the show notes to Dirty Birds. Katharine, really appreciate you joining us here today on Construction Genius, and we wish you the best.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to today's interview. Hope you enjoyed it. Share it with other people. Give the show a rating and a review wherever you get your podcasts, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thank you for listening to this episode of Construction Genius. Hope you found that 1% of inspiration to help you in the next few days. If you like the show, please give us a 5-star review on iTunes, share it with other construction leaders who you think would benefit, and always remember that the show is brought to you by Kick-Ass Meetings, I've been working with construction leaders since 2004, teaching them how to run extremely effective problem-solving meetings that gets their people collaborating, taps into their creativity. And to get yourself a free copy of the Kick-Ass Meeting Report, go to www.ericanderton.com/kickassmeetings. Grab yourself that free report, read it, use it in your business. You'll find it extremely useful. And thanks again for listening.